Hey, my fellow YouTubers, this is Kurt from the Kurt's Place channel here. I'm going to be bringing you another computer help video from down here in the basement arcade. I recently wanted to point out, now in this video what we're going to discuss is I have a computer that I recently built using a, I'm going to show you all the specifics in just a second, but basically using standard components that I've used on other computers. Now the problem I'm having with this computer is when I go to power the computer up, the computer itself will, the computer itself will power up, but I have no image on the screen, and it doesn't appear that the computer is doing a full boot. It appears that the motherboard's coming up, but that the hard drive and things are not working. So I'm going to just show you a little, some things you can do to help diagnose this problem, and hopefully I'll be able to get it working in this video. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple step-by-step instructions to show you some things that I did and how I went about fixing the problem. And hopefully by the end of this video, we'll have the computer running and working again. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to show you what I basically put together. It's a fairly standard computer. Now, I did build this inside an eMachines case. It's not an eMachines computer. I'm just using an eMachines case because this is kind of a budget build computer that I had. I did a couple upgrades on it, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you an overview of what it is that I have and how I go about fixing it. And I'm going to show you the steps that I do. Okay, so let's go. Let me go ahead and show you exactly what we have in this video. Okay, and as always, I want to thank you again, by the way, for supporting the channel. And if you want to go ahead and click that subscribe button, feel free to do so. That way you can keep up with all my current videos and things I have going on. And if you have any questions or comments about the video, feel free to leave those in the comment windows below. Let's go ahead and begin, shall we? I'm going to start showing you exactly what I built, and then I'm going to show you the problem that I'm having. Okay, let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly what I built here and show you what we're working with. Okay. All right, let me get set up here. Okay. What you have in front of us now. This is basically a standard computer. Okay. I have it mounted in an eMachines case. Okay. And I'm using this one. I'm using the M4A78EM motherboard. M4A78EM motherboard made by ASUS. Now, I've built several computers like this before, and I never had a problem with these before. This is a new problem that I've run into, and I want to go ahead and show you how I go about fixing it, okay? So let me go ahead and show you, first of all, what it looks like on the inside. Alright, so what we have on the inside is, as you can see in here, basically I just have a standard motherboard inside here. Okay, want to show you one other thing on the video as well. Okay, yeah, basically I just have a standard M4A78EM motherboard, okay, which is right here. I'm not running any optional video cards or anything like that. I have the standard memory in here. Now this computer only has 2 blocks of 512 DDR2 memory. There's 2 blocks of 512 DDR memory in here. It's got a 500 gigabyte Western Digital hard drive. Okay. Now and also now the one thing I did do is I did upgrade it with a new CD writer. The computer needed a new CD writer, and also it got a new power supply as well. Now everything's wired in standardly as it normally would be. You know, it's got the SATA cable for the CD-ROM drive, and it's also got an SATA cable for the hard drive right here. Standard power supply. Everything pretty much off the shelf as I normally would build a computer. Now let me go ahead and show you exactly what's happening and how I'm going to go about diagnosing this problem. Okay. Alright, let me grab my power cable. Now I wanted to mention that on this test stand, I have a keyboard hooked up to the computer, and I have a standard mouse hooked up as well. I don't have any speakers, but you're going to see for the demonstration, I'm not, for this, to show you this problem, not going to have speakers for this anyway, so it'll be okay. Okay. Now I want to mention that if you remember about as far as static buildup and everything goes, I already discharged myself from static already by touching the computer case. I don't have the grounding cable I wear sometimes so I can move around so I don't have any problems. But I just want to go ahead and show you how I go about doing this. The main thing is just to discharge static by touching the case like I'm doing here. Now here's the problem that I have, okay? I have a standard AOC monitor, okay, everything's standard. Now watch what happens when I hit the startup button here. Now what should happen is I should have a startup screen come up here on the computer, okay? Okay. Now, as you can see, everything boots up as it normally. Everything seems to be booting up fine as it normally should. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the screen here so you can see the screen a little bit better. I know the light's kind of blurring on the screen a little bit, so it's a little hard to see. Okay. Now, as you can see, the computer seems to be running just fine, but did you notice anything about the screen? I don't have any screen. Now, on this computer, right now I should have a screen coming up right now telling me the operating system and everything like that, and the DOS screen and everything should be coming, the MS-DOS screen. Notice I don't have anything, okay? So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. There's a step that I learned that does work sometimes on these as well. Now, what you want to do, the first step to do, okay, is to go ahead and check all your cables. Okay, okay. First of all, you want to turn the power off since I don't have anything right now. Okay. Now this is step one on fixing the problem. Okay. First thing you do is you want to disconnect. You want to turn the power off to the computer. Disconnect the power cable. As you can see, I've done here. I've disconnected the power cable. Okay, power cable's been disconnected. What you want to do then is you want to let the computer set for about 20 seconds, and then this little power button right here, this is the first thing that I've done that has solved it on one problem. What you want to do is, with the power disconnected from the computer, you want to go ahead and hold this down for a minute. Okay, so hold the power button in for a minute, as you're going to see I'm going to do here. And then just count up to a minute. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I gave a few, okay, and then released the power button. I gave a few extra seconds there because I wanted to make sure I had a full minute, okay? Now I'm going to plug the power back into the computer. We're going to power it and see if that fixes it. Okay. I'm going to turn the power on. Now I wanted to point out, I know that I have power coming into the computer, and I know I have power coming into the keyboard because the lights came on the keyboard and they also came on the computer. So I know for a fact that we have power coming in there as well. And as you can see, the mouse and everything has power as well. So all the components are getting power, okay? Okay, now that didn't fix the problem, so what we're going to do is we're going to try the next step. Okay, now the next step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and check all of our cables. Now, I have already done the test on the cables, but I'm going to basically show you how I went about doing that. So let me go ahead and turn the power off again. Okay. Okay, disconnect the power from the computer. Okay, and I'm going to show you what I did inside here too. Okay, let me grab one of my cables. Okay. Now, what I did last night was, if you look inside the computer here, first of all, I put a meter in here and I tested this out. The power going into the hard drive is fine. I tested that with a meter. That is fine. The SATA cable that goes here, the little red one that goes from here to the motherboard, I did test that with the replacement cable. That did not solve the problem. Okay. Now the next diagnostic I did was I went ahead and I checked checked the cable, the monitor cable that goes to the monitor, which is right here. Monitor cable was okay. I used a replacement cable. Did not fix the problem. The second thing I did is I checked the monitor connection in the back where the motherboard is. That was fine. There were no problems back there. I went ahead and I made sure that all the memory chips and everything were firm, and they were. No problems there. I had power going to the motherboard and everything. That was fine. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, these little memory chips in here. If a memory chip is bad, that is a possibility. The first thing I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to remove one of the memory chips. Okay, I'm going to remove the very first one. You got to see. Now the way you remove this is you hold these down like this. Okay. So I'm going to take the memory chip out. Now you have to put, sometimes these are in there pretty good, so you have to push them. I'm going to take one of the memory chips out. Okay. Now this is a Hynix 512 DDR2 memory block. So I'm going to take that out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move the next one over that's next to it in the spot I just took the first one out of. Okay. Now this computer's set up to run. Right now I'm only running 2 blocks of memory right in here where these yellow slots are. That's the memory that I'm running right. I'm only running 2 blocks of memory right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to move the one memory block into the one slot. Into the very first slot. Close it down and try to restart it again. This is how I go about, this is one of the ways I go about testing these memory chips. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to close that back up. Okay, leave this off the side. Now we're going to go ahead and try to power the computer up again. Okay. So let's go ahead and try to power the computer up again. Ah, look what we have. Look there, we have a screen coming up. Now everything's coming up the way it's supposed to. So what that tells me is, that this memory chip that I have here may actually be bad. So what we're going to do is there's a way we're going to test it. Okay. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and load in the defaults on the screen that I have here on the thing here. If you see here that I have a thing where it says load default values and everything, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to hit F2 on my keyboard. Now it's possible that maybe one of the memory chips wasn't seated properly in there as well. So that's what we're going to test out. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a diagnostic and I'm going to check under the computer properties. We're going to check and make sure that this 512 gigabyte DDR memory shows up on the computer properties screen as well. So go ahead and let the screen go ahead and boot up, and then we'll check that as well. Okay. Okay, now for the next thing, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to see if you can see the screen. Okay, yeah. I'm going to for the next thing, I'm going to go ahead and turn off the light so you can see the computer screen a little bit better. Okay, and then as far as the next thing that I do, then I'll turn the light back on when I resume the video. Okay. Now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the screen orientation so you can see it better. Okay, let me go ahead and find the screen that I need. I haven't worked on this computer for a little while, so it's going to take me a second to find the screen that I need. Okay, now I'm in the Catalyst Control Center for ATI. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I go about adjusting the monitor. Okay, now you notice that the monitor right now is not currently where I need it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go ahead and change the properties for the monitor here, and you're going to see how I do that as well. Okay. 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 Now you see under here there's a thing that says change display setup. We're going to rotate the desktop image because I need to have it so you can see it better. Okay? Now this is going to show you the different ways that we can do it. Okay, so now what I did now is I changed the display settings. Okay? Now I mainly did this so I can show you what's on the screen here, okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to System Properties. Go to Computer. You click on Computer. Now you go to System Properties. Okay? Now as you're going to see here, my memory right now is 447 megabytes of memory. Remember, I'm only using one of these chips. So what we're going to do now is, now you can see everything looks good. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to put the other memory block in there and see if the computer will run now with the other memory block inserted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do a full sign off. As you can see here, we're going to completely power the computer off. Okay. Now if this memory block is good, then if I take the other one out and I put this one in place, then it should go ahead and do the same thing. But what I'm going to do is, because I suspect that this memory chip here might be bad, okay, what I'm going to do is let me turn the light back on so I can show you what I was going to do. Okay. What I'm going to do on this memory block, now that I know the one inside the computer works, on the memory chip, I'm just going to take a little pen and I'm going to mark a little dot, okay? Going to put a little dot right here, okay, with a little arrow. Okay. Now what that's telling me is that this chip may be bad, and I suspect it may be bad. Now we're going to go ahead and do going to turn the power off to the computer completely. Okay. Okay, I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. Going to take the power cord out. Remember, whenever you're doing work with memory chips, always disconnect the power completely to the computer. If you haven't, now let me show you something on this computer that makes it really easy on this one for you too. On my computers, on the back of my computers here, as you can see, I install aftermarket. I do install aftermarket power supplies on my computers. Okay, let me turn this so you can see this better. Okay, yeah, as you can see on my computer, I do install aftermarket power supplies. So as you can see on this one right here, I do have a power switch located on the back of my power supply right here. There's an actual power switch, okay? If you don't have a power switch on your back of your computer, it's very important that you pull the power plug out completely. You don't want any power coming into this computer when you work on this. There's a chance you could short the motherboard out if you do something like that or damage one of the components. So always make sure that, number one, you take the static out of your body by grounding yourself to the chassis, and also make sure you disconnect the power completely whenever you're working inside the computer on any of the components. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna take that memory chip out that we know is working inside the computer. Okay, we're gonna take that memory chip out. Okay, now this is the one we know is working. This one we know is working. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. The one that we know is working, we're gonna set over here in the corner so we know it's working. Now we're gonna put in the one. This is the one, if you remember, I marked with a pen that we suspect may be bad. So let's go ahead and try this out. Okay, now as you can see, you have to push that in, and then there's little clamps that clamp on both sides, okay? Now we're going to go ahead we're going to try to power the computer up with that other memory card in, and let's see what we get. Now it's possible that maybe one of the memory cards needed to be reseated. That's a possibility, so we're going to test that out next. Okay, now I plug the power back in, then turn the power supply back on. Okay, let's go ahead and bring it up now and see if the computer comes up now again. Okay, now as you can see now, the screen and everything is coming up. Okay, as you can see what I've done here, the screen and everything is coming up as normal. But I'm still going to do a test just to make sure that that memory chip is bad. Okay, I mean it's not bad. I'm still going to do a test on it just to be sure it's not bad. And then we're going to go ahead and power the computer up with both memory chips in place and see what happens. Okay, I'll turn the light off again so I can show you the step here. Turn it so you can see the monitor. Okay. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to computer, and we're going to check the status of that memory card I just put in there and see what it looks like. Okay, as you can see here on the memory RAM, it's showing 447 megabytes, which is exactly what that computer chip should have on it, is 447 megabytes. Once you get the memory and everything in place, or as you can see, so now as you can see, that's fine. Now the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to go ahead and put in both memory cards and see if the computer will power up. So I'm going to go do the same thing I did before. Okay, we're going to do a full shutdown. Okay. Now keep in mind, this computer had been sitting in my workshop for a while. I hadn't used it in a while. I just basically wanted to upgrade the case and everything. I'm going to show you some of the things that I did to the case as well. Okay, we're going to let the computer do a full shutdown. Okay, I'm going to turn the light back on again for you. Okay, I'm gonna do a full shutdown here. Turn off the power. Okay, I'm gonna disconnect this. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna install the other memory chip that was sitting over here now. Okay. Now remember, I still have it marked. I still have the original one marked if that becomes a problem. So we're gonna take the chip now. I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall this chip back in here. Okay, both memory chips are now reinstalled. Okay. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to turn the power back on. And now we're going to try powering the computer up with both memory chips. Okay, now you notice something very interesting happened. You notice how the screen didn't come up? Okay, what that tells me is it tells me that one of those memory chips, one of the memory chips may have a problem. It could be something also with the motherboard. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the computer off and remove one of the memory chips. I'm going to put the one in. I'm going to put the original one back in that I had, and I'm going to leave one of the memory chips out. Okay, I don't need to have a lot of memory on this computer, so I can just run with one chip if I need to. This computer's just used to run some arcade machines and things, so I don't need to have a lot of high power on this one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and turn the computer back off. Okay. Okay, going to do a full shutdown. Disconnect the power. Okay, now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take one of these memory chips out. Let me go ahead and make sure they're seated properly. Always double check and make sure that they're seated. So I'm going to do one more check on that before I do this. Okay, now as you can see, I'm going to check the chips. As you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you one. I'm going to go ahead and double check the second chip. We know it works with the one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reseat the original one again. Okay, this is the second chip that we added. I'm going to reseat it one more time. Make sure that it's seated properly, just to double check. You'll hear them click when they're seated. You'll actually hear them pop into place when they're seated properly. You'll hear them click. All right, let's go ahead and try to power it up again and see what happens. Turn the power back on. Okay, let's see what we get this time. Ah, look, we have a screen coming up. See that? Now when I check the memory configuration, it should say a little over 800 megabytes in the memory. Okay, one of the reasons I made this video, I just wanted to show you one of the things when you're working with the computer. One of the things that can happen when you're working on a computer, this is one of the reasons I wanted to make this video. Sometimes when you're working on computers, little problems will pop up. If you've had, now, something else that I wanted to mention to you too that was mentioned. Somebody says it's very important on these computers to go ahead and check the CMOS battery. I'm going to show you where that is, and one of the things I wanted to let you know is on this computer I did replace the battery first. Anytime you have a computer that's been sitting for a while, it's not uncommon for the CMOS for the battery that backs up that backs up your CMOS to go bad. I'm going to show you what that battery looks like. Okay, first of all, we're going to go ahead and check this screen here. We're going to make sure that both memory chips are being recognized. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to we're going to do the same thing as if we're going to go into computer, go into system properties. Okay, sometimes it takes a second for it to come. It will come up, you just have to give it a second. Before I do that, there's one thing I do want to check. All right, let me yeah, okay, everything looks good there. Okay, let me. Okay, here we go. Now on the bottom of the screen, okay. Now if you notice when I go to views, okay, you notice I go to system properties, okay. There on the bottom, see right there where it says 768 megabytes. That's a result of having those two chips in there now that I put in there now. That's the current memory that the computer has, and it has 768 megabytes right now of space now as a result of using those two chips. Okay. Now the last thing I'm going to do before I'm done putting this in. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to close it out, and I'm going to show you that battery now. Now that we got the computer working again now. Okay. Okay, let me go back to system properties. I want to check one thing again. Okay, so now we know that that's good. Okay, we have 760 megabytes of space and everything good. So now that we know that both memory chips seem to be working fine, what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and log this off. I'm going to show you where that CMOS where that battery is for the CMOS. Let me do a full shutdown. Okay. Okay. Turn the power completely off. Okay. That battery, by the way, that people were talking about replacing inside the computer. Let me turn in so you can see it. This is the battery. This is the battery. Let me get a good angle for you. Okay, this is the battery right here. Okay, this is the battery right here that controls that when you boot the computer up and when you have the CMOS, that's the battery that controls it. Now I actually went ahead and I replaced that battery already. My computer it uses a standard. It's called a CR2032 Energizer battery. It's just a little cell battery. You just pop it in there and take the old one out. Now, sometimes on the actual computer screen, when a battery goes bad, sometimes it'll actually show you on the computer screen when the battery goes bad. It actually will give you a message that says low battery. That's how you know you need to replace that battery. Okay. All right. There's one other thing I want to show you here, and then we'll be done with the video. So as you can see now, I did a few things now, and I got the computer working again. I'm going to show you something on the video here as well. Another thing too in the video as well. I'm going to actually bring up the CMOS screen so I can show you what it looks like under CMOS too. Okay. Okay. Let me turn the power back on. Okay. Now on this computer now to get into CMOS, on this computer here, when the screen first boots up, there's a thing that will tell you on there how to get into it. Okay, now on this computer, I remember correctly in this computer, I think you hit the, yeah, it says hold delete to run setup. So I'm going to hold the delete button down, and that's going to allow me to get into the setup. All right, now what I was going to say is, if you notice that the system date and stuff and everything here, if you, let me turn the light off so you can see this better. Okay. All right, let me turn this so you can see this better. This is something else, too, that you might want to keep in mind, too. I'm just going to go ahead and show this to you in the picture here. Now, hopefully you'll be able to see this okay. It's a little hard to see. Let me see if I can get you a little bit better angle on it. Okay. Okay, yeah, let me show you something now. Now, if you're going to notice something, too, sometimes if you change the CMOS battery, or when you power the computer up, okay, you're going to notice on the screen here that, see how the system date and stuff is not correct? That all has to be set. It's very important if you replace the battery goes low. Sometimes this will reset back to, sometimes this will reset. So what you have to do is you have to reset the system clock and everything on this screen right here. I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to do that later on because there's a couple other things I want to check out. But then also, if you notice under here, your SATA drive is going to be here. Your SATA 2 drive is going to be here. This will show you everything that you have in your computer. Okay. Now, if you tab down to the bottom, okay, using the keyboard, using the arrow keys, if I go to System Information, okay, this is actually going to show me. If you remember we installed the 2 memory chips. This is another way you can check if the memory chips are working properly. You remember each one of those memory chips was 512 megabytes? Well, there's 2 of those, so 512 times 2 is 1024. This is telling me that both memory chips are working correctly. The installed size is here. This is a usable side, which is 768 megabytes. I don't get the full benefit of using all of it because of the fact that that the memory is used for some other things as well. So it's going to take some of that memory down. Now, keep in mind that this computer is probably maybe about 10 years old. So this is an older computer. So the memory's not as big an issue on this one because I'm not running anything that's really power hungry for memory. I'm just running basic arcade games and things like that, like Miss Pac-Man. This is a standard computer that powers my arcade machines that use MAME. So I don't need to have a whole lot of power like I did with the pinball computer. Okay, and I just want to let me go ahead and just want to go ahead and say one other thing in the video here. Okay. Okay, so now I just want to point out, now you see how we went ahead and we solved this problem. Okay, now what I want to mention to you that is if you're having a problem with the screen coming up, you now saw how I went about fixing it. The main thing when you work with computers is you have to make sure you have patience when you work with computers. Problems like this do come up every now and then. Okay, now I'm actually going to go ahead and conclude the video. Okay. And I just want to say that the main thing when you work with computers is you want to make sure that you have patience. Problems like this will crop up every now and then. It's one of the things that makes building computers fun, is being able to solve problems. I want to thank you, by the way, for tuning into the video here, learning how to fix your computer if you have no screen coming up when you boot the computer up. And I also want to mention something too I wanted to show you before I close out. There is one thing I want to show you on this motherboard too. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take the camera here off the stand so I can show this to you. Okay. What I wanted to show you inside the computer is, if you look inside the computer here, you're going to see there's a little light here. There's a little status light. That little status light tells me that there's power coming into the computer. So keep that in mind, that there is a little on some motherboards like these Asus's, there's a little status light. You can see it right here, and that tells me there's power coming into the computer. Okay. All right. Okay, all right, and so I'm going to go ahead and conclude the video. I want to thank you, by the way, again, for tuning into the Kurt's Place channel here on YouTube, and hopefully this video will be able to help you out if you have a problem with your computer as well. And as always, I want to thank you again for tuning into the Kurt's Place channel here, and we'll catch you on the next video. Okay, thanks again for watching.